Afternoon, folks. I'm just going to just wait a couple of minutes to allow people to join, and then we will start imminently, so bear with us, please. Just give it another minute and then we will kick off. Okay, that's a couple of minutes after 12. I'm sure people will join in due course. We'll just kick off. So welcome to today's webinar, From Strategy to Action, and that's in partnership with Connect 3. In this 45-minute virtual interactive webinar, Jordan Kay, our innovation and growth consultant, will help you look beyond the daily whirlwind of your never-ending to-do list. We all know what that feels like. And help you to identify your most important goals for this year and how to reach them. I'm Heather Milne from the Growth and Inward Investment team at Skills Development Scotland. And before I hand over to Jordan, who will be delivering today's webinar, I'll just quickly run through some housekeeping. We're recording the webinar and that will be available on our website, so you'll be able to access it in the future. To avoid any accidental interruptions, attendees' cameras and microphones have been switched off just during the body of the presentation. However, we would really encourage you to use the Q&A function to ask any questions you might have. Slightly different to the chat function, and the button can be found at the top of your Teams screen, and it's the one that's got the question mark on it. The session is due to run for 45 minutes, and there is dedicated time at the end of the presentation to answer your question. We'll manage the Q&A session to ensure that as many of your questions as possible are covered. And I think Jordan's quite keen, if you have to specifically want to ask a question during the Q&A session, please feel free to come off of mute and put your hand up. So I'm now delighted to introduce Jordan Kay, the Head of Innovation and Growth at Connect 3. Jordan is passionate about entrepreneurship, business, innovation and performance. An entrepreneur since the age of 16, he's over 20 years of experience building, operating and supporting businesses. I'm delighted, Jordan. I'll hand the floor over to yourself.
That's great. Thanks, Heather. Thanks for that.
No worries.
I'll just share my screen. You see that okay, Heather? All good?
Yeah, perfect. All good.
That's great. Hi, everyone. Yeah, as Heather said, I'm Jordan. I head up the Innovation and Growth at Connect 3. In today's webinar, I'll be really ultimately looking at sustainable strategies that can help us to generate growth within our organization. So regardless whether you are a one person organization, founder led, or alternatively, if you have multiple people within the organization, this can kind of apply for everybody, and it's got that holistic approach. Before, I'd just like to kind of touch on a wee bit what Heather had said, just to give a wee bit of background about myself. So as Heather said, I've actually been an entrepreneur since probably the age of 15, 16. I had multiple little small businesses that I would have when I was at high school, at university, and that then allowed me to then build up a business after coming out of university when I was 22, that I was fortunate enough to sell 10 years later. And then after that, or during that, I had also built other businesses, and some of them were successful, but just never to that same extent. So I thought maybe my value could be as going inside organizations and working inside an organization. Now, if for those that are entrepreneurs out there, that is a very hard thing to do and a big challenge in itself. So, and changing the mindset of that. But yeah, I've been lucky, and again since then to work in a few organizations and really help them grow. And then started to realize that I had a passion for consultancy, and I joined the team at Connect 3 in 2023, 2 years ago. And I've always been about productivity. I've always been about how to get the best out of ourselves. And believe it or not, again, setting up my business at 22, I didn't really have a strategy. I didn't really know what goal setting was at that age, and you were just learning as you were going on. However, now when working and setting these frameworks with organizations, I start to look back and think actually what my business could have looked like even more, and could have actually been greater. So I do think there's a real value in what I'm about to go through with you. And then just to give you a wee bit of a background in terms of Connect 3 and what we do. So my offering, I head up our innovation and growth offering at Connect 3, and that's mainly working with businesses looking at their business strategy and goal setting, product and service development, scale up and innovation programs, looking at entrepreneurial mindset and critical thinking. So really about changing the way that we think inside organizations, and there's a real skills gap there. And then most recently AI in the workplace as well, which we've done a previous webinar on. So yeah, today is about sort of these sustainable strategies or sustainable or frameworks we can have to help generate growth. But really, I thought it was good just to really start about, what really is a sustainable business and how do we create those sustainable strategies. So, a better future fit business to Connect 3 just sort of, it looks at sustainability holistically, and sustainability is not about the green part. There's obviously there's the environmental, the social, and the governance aspects. So let's make sure that we're also, we've heard ESG, but let's make sure that we're actually looking at this wheel, and whatever we're looking to hit for our strategic goals, that we're at least covering the baseline of some of this in here. So that might be looking at, which is always first, should be looking at your profit and growth, regardless of any organization. That should be one of the key things to look at. The business can't be sustainable if it's not focusing on this. Then there's leadership and board, ethics, and transparency, purpose, values, and obviously the strategy is what we're talking about a wee bit more about today. Then our environmental aspect of it, which is probably where people, have probably think about sustainability in that ways, in this environmental piece, but it's not just all about that. So we're looking at our carbon and air, our waste, our water and natural sources, and biodiversity. So, again, what can we do as an organization in this space? Can we have something that's part of our overall strategy? We don't have an environmental or a green strategy that's separate. We try and embed this throughout everything that we do. And then again, the social aspect. So this is, ultimately sits with people. So, our employee well-being, if we have teams, our supply chain. So making sure we're working with the right organizations that sit to our values, our customers, and then obviously that wider piece as well, which we sometimes forget about, is the community and what impact could we have as an organization on our community. So yeah, and I think in this we're all at different stages. Not everybody is can do all of this. Not we're a B Corp organization, so we take our sort of our sustainable strategy really. It's really important to us, and we're probably quite far on that journey. But for others, maybe aren't. So maybe some organizations are at stage one, so sort of struggling with slow growth, poor competitiveness, maybe low staff morale. Well, maybe we start to look at some of the things that we're doing and can we try and change this? Again, stage two is maybe looking more at we've been working on the strategy, but we just don't really know where the next bit's to go. And then the next scale up bit is those that are sort of just looking for future growth and looking to sort of take it to the next again level. So don't worry if you're not got anything in place. Even those that are at stage three that are quite far on their journey with certain things, they might not also have focused on, for example, their supply chain. That's maybe one of the last things that people do. But what we're trying to encourage here is when we are looking at all of our sort of strategic approach and how we're going to help grow the organization, we really need to make sure that we're covering everything. So, and again, just to probably touch on this before I go into some sort of frameworks and actions to take away, is really just thinking about the benefits. So, what's the performance benefits of scaling sustainably? And it helps boost investor confidence if this is something that you're looking to do, is to get investment. It's obviously great for customer satisfaction and retention, and this is proven to be successful if you have that the people and social forward thinking aspect of it. Helps open up to new markets and new growth opportunities, where is obviously for I would probably say the majority of organizations are always looking into new markets and always looking for growth. We're looking at resilient and reliable supply chains as well. Helps boost productivity and innovation. I'll come on to a wee bit more about productivity and goal setting and how that can really help with that. Helps with communities and economies, efficiency savings, employee well-being, and engagement, attracting, retaining talent, and also helps reduce negative shocks as well. So there's quite a lot there that if we go back the way to that wheel, we can actually, if we can try and do quite a lot of this, and we can make sure that we look after our people, we take care of our supply chain, then actually the opportunities for growth and for performance value will start to shine through. And listen, that's not going to happen, like a lot of things in business. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take a bit of time for that to make an impact or to make a difference, or for you to start seeing that. But I can guarantee you, if you start putting the effort into that and having that in your overall strategic documents, your vision, your mission, your purpose, etc., and we align to this, then you will see future growth, and it will help you to have sustainable growth. And then ultimately, so why is strategy key for sustainable growth? So just sort of looking at a business strategy, again, going back to what I said there when I was 22, which feels like a distant memory. I definitely, having a strategic document or something that would have given me a bit of guidance would have been exactly what I needed. I was full of all these different ideas and pinging all over the place. And we always get to that. And even as the organization grows, I grew a team to 30, working with organizations even at the moment that have teams of 50, maybe 400 people. We all have ideas, but we actually have not created these long-term goals and objectives that we want to have. And it really surprises me that a lot of organizations don't have even simple elements of a business strategy in place. A lot of it is in our heads or on various documents, and it's hearsay, really. It's not really an actionable plan. So really what a business strategy is an actionable plan designed to achieve long-term goals and objectives. It provides clear direction and helps create alignment in the organization, and it improves decision making by removing any distractions. So again, if we think about, if we've got just founder leader-led organizations, there's a lot of distractions, and depending on your mindset or your skill set, that you might be prone to more distractions. So if we have an action plan in place, it allows us to stick to that. And also things that come in, we can choose, do we want to do that? Does this align to what our strategy is? Or alternatively, do we want to put it to the side? Or do we something that's on there? Do we move that out, move it to somewhere else, or rip it up and we add this in? That is okay as well. So really, again, it's about creating a plan that's got clear direction, and it can help remove any distractions, and it creates that alignment piece throughout the organization. So the more people you have as well, the harder it is to get that alignment piece. So having a document that everyone can work towards, especially a senior leadership team, can really help. And then just really looking at, ultimately, what does a good business strategy look like? I'm not going to go through everything here, but we look at our business analysis. I've got a little tool that I'll share with you. You can take away, which you may have looked at, a SWOT analysis or a PESTLE analysis. We probably do this kind of stuff maybe when we set up our business, or every now and then when we need something, but actually a little SWOT analysis could be really good to do, quarterly or even every 6 months, just to keep us on track and make sure that things are good. And that doesn't have to just be from the business as a whole. That could actually be for areas of the business as well. Doing a market analysis, so making sure we've got that in place, having our vision, mission, and our purpose. So our vision being, where do we want to go? Our mission, what do we do? And our purpose, why do we exist? So we work with a lot of organizations, either looking at this full business strategy piece, or alternatively, we might just work with them on a vision, mission, and purpose piece. So again, working with senior leaders, getting the thoughts and opinions of others in the organization, whether that's through surveys or through group sessions. We'll bring them together to hear what they think the company's vision, mission, and purpose is. Then we work with senior leadership team to develop that out. That then we can bring everyone in that alignment piece that we talked about. And then again, might be something you may have heard USP. So again, what is our unique selling point, our unique selling proposition? This changes as well. This might change with products. This might change over time. So again, have we probably for today, looking at this, have we done this recently? When was the last time we done it? And maybe after today, you could go off and start exploring some of these elements. And then within that, also this next piece is more the goal setting, which we'll come round to in the next bit of the session. And then from there, we then look at the sort of strategic development. So we're developing those strategies. Then we start implementing it, which is really important. There's no point in us doing all this hard work and writing down and get our thoughts on paper to then not go and implement it. And then again, if you have teams in your organization, it's then the senior leadership team and the management team. It's really their job to then start, how do we communicate this? How do we monitor it? How do we embed? And how do we evaluate our overall strategy? So even if that was goal setting, how are we making sure that our people are aligning to our goals? So does that come through their PDRs that we then set? They have their goals, which again might be aligned to any bonuses or anything like that as well. So, but how does that work all the way up? So how does that align to our top goal inside the organization? So yes, you are maybe in X department and you're doing X job, but how does that actually impact what our overall goal is and our overall objective is for this organization, which is really key. So I'd really say that we look at, yes, we can do in our teams, we can do an analysis, or we can work with consultants, whatever that looks like. We can do it internally or we can do it externally. Leaders inside business, we can do our analysis, we can do our market analysis, we can do this, we can do our USP, we can do some goal setting, which again, I'm going to show you the framework. We can do our development. Okay, we can maybe start implementing some of it, but really without communicating this out and really without evaluating it and monitoring it, it isn't going to be successful. And we need to make changes. We need to make sure we get that right, so that others can go off and start delivering, or alternatively, that so that if something comes in, we can rechange what we have in there. And what we always find as well, and generally in the goal setting aspect, I'll come on to, is whatever we say, actions, etc., that are going to be done in quarter 1 or quarter 2 will inevitably move into quarter 3, quarter 4, or maybe never get done within what we thought was going to get done. But remember, we're sitting down and maybe looking at this on a yearly basis, so things do change, and that's okay. So whatever you put down is not going to be there for the next 5 years. It's there. Your goals may be what your overarching goals might be what are there for the longer term, but our objectives and our actions will always change to align to those goals. So yeah, and I think just to go back to the sort of the sustainable strategy and having what this sort of looks like. So we've got ultimately our purpose. So this is our vision, this is our values, this is really our North Star and what we're aiming for. And then we've got around that, we've got our people, we've got processes, we've got planet, we've got profit, and we've got product. So when you maybe start thinking about your goals and what that would look like, is actually they're probably going to have an element of this. It may not be that you've got 5 goals, for example, but you might find that a couple of those goals might link in together. But generally, we do find that these are the sort of overarching key elements that are always touched on in some capacity for an action plan. And I've just put this in here. This is not to do in this workshop, but I'm just giving you different ways. So again, we've all probably done looking at the business analysis, we've all probably done a SWOT analysis and a PESTLE analysis, but I just try and demystify a wee bit of business and think of other ways that we can make things a bit more fun to do, or it's just changing language. So instead of it being, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, I've just made this to be, the good, the bad, the hungry, and the risky. So the good, what do we do well? The bad, what can we improve? The hungry, what do we want more of? And the risky, what risks or threats are there? So feel free to take a wee screenshot just now of that. You might want to just draw that down on your pad if you've got a notepad there. And I'd encourage you this week or next week to just maybe think about that of your what are the good things that your organization is doing? What are maybe the things we can improve on? What do we want more of? And what are we maybe what risks are there and what threats are there, but also what is maybe quite risky, what would be really bold for us to go and do. It's maybe not hungry as such, there's a risk element added to it. And what could that be? Because that might be a game changer for your organization, and it's maybe not something short term, but it's a longer term piece. And then what we can do is use those elements to help us with our goal setting. So yeah, with this, as I say, I've just kind of changed the language, demystified it. It's essentially a SWOT analysis, but take a bit of time on your own, maybe even get your teams to do this as well, and then you can start to share and discuss that as a group in terms of what that looks like. Because what we want to do and what we don't do in business a lot of the time is have that strategic thinking and taking a bit of a step back and really thinking about what the future looks like, or what things are good, or what could be opportunities. So I've left that there for you. So the next bit I just really like to come into is talking about business goals, and I'm really passionate about this, not only from a business perspective, but I actually believe having goals personally as well can make a big impact on you. And I like fitness, etc. as well. So I use goals from a fitness side of things, mental, and also for work things personally. But in terms of a business or an organization, as I said before, I think it's really key to helping us grow the organization, or ultimately as well keeping people accountable and making sure that things are being done. So in this wee bit here is just really quick fire through it, and we do this workshop with organizations, and it might be a bit of a half day and really getting you thinking. For this, I'm going to go through it very quickly. But ultimately, we'll just cover is why have business goals, our framework, and then also just I've got some sort of questions at the end that can, again, you can take some screenshots and allow you just to start thinking, and might allow you to create and discuss with your teams. So really, why then? So why have why have goals? Why have, you may have also heard of OKRs, objectives and key results. So clear goals in a company establish accountability that I touched on before. They provide a framework for decision making, and they serve as a foundation for performance as well. So they create clarity. So, it gives all the employees, whether that's, again, if you're a small organization, you've got a couple of people, it still gives everybody a clear direction of where we're going. And sometimes in small and larger organizations, everyone has got their head down and are just working and doing business as usual. Strategy is really about the overall picture of what we're looking to do here. So again, having a clearer direction definitely helps with team morale, and you will notice that people perform better, and you'll overall have a more connected team, I would say, by having that. And then our focus piece, so they help teams concentrate on that task, and it can also help with resource as well. So maybe we're actually spending a lot on our resource, and people, maybe we actually need to focus them on this area, it gives a clearer focus. And then you've got motivation, so it helps understanding company goals can boost employee motivation and satisfaction, like I touched on before. I think that sometimes we forget that culturally, I've talked about this with some organizations, that we like we want to have autonomy within inside organizations nowadays, and yes, having autonomy is a great thing, and empowerment is probably a nicer word we've actually been using a wee bit more. But regardless of any individual at any level within an organization, whether you're even the founder, whether you're the CEO, you sometimes just like to be told what to do, and you like to have something to work towards. So sometimes if we get too autonomous of an organization where everyone gets to choose what they do, it can kind of go a wee bit too far. And there's a bit of a middle ground. So actually, again, having a nice framework and having a goal setting action plan, as I say, whether that's through this way, various OKRs or other frameworks that are available, it really does create that alignment, and you will start to see that the motivation and satisfaction of people will definitely be higher. And then performance, which I think is really interesting. Strategic aligned goals make tracking progress and success easier. And it's actually, there's stats out there that says it's proven to increase performance by 20%, which I think 20% is a lot. It might not seem a lot to in some situations, but if you think about individuals that maybe aren't performing and we can get them up to that 20, we can increase them by 20%, brilliant. But then start to think about those that are performing already inside the organization, and those that are performing very well, and we can increase them to 20% more, then there's a great opportunity there, that there might be a lot of growth opportunity, one for them as an individual, but two for the organization as well. So I think, as I say, I'm quite passionate about goal setting and having that framework, and I really do believe that the performance does increase. Or again, what's great about it is we look back and we say, that wasn't the right choice. We actually had an action that we were looking to do. We had a plan and that didn't work. That is great. We don't have to be, by the end of the year, maybe things didn't work out, our turnover wasn't as high, customer satisfaction, etc., wasn't as good. At least we can say, well, we've done all this to try and make that work, opposed to just pulling various things out of the sky. And you may have heard of like the SMART goals framework if anyone's done goal setting before. I've just changed a wee bit again in the language, but with this, so when we're looking at goals, we want to be specific, and having objectives and actions be nice and clear. So let's not make them really complicated. Let's make them really short and sharp so that others understand. And then let's make them measurable. So especially with those key goals. So let's put a figure next to that. We're going to hit turnover of X, or we're going to have a client satisfaction score of X, or we want our pulse survey for to be 4.5, for example, or from 4 to 4.5, or we would we're going to have 3 of our employees are going to win, we're going to win 3 awards this year, whether that's through employees or whether that's through the organization. So again, we've got a number that we're working towards. And then also think about, like, are they achievable as well? So there's good science based about things that are really achievable. So if you have things up on the wall and you think it's quite achievable, you just start ignoring it. But actually, if you make them unachievable as well, there's always science that goes one way or the other, isn't there? But there's also other stuff that when it becomes too unachievable, you just block it out. You think I'll never get there. So we want to make sure that they are achievable, but they're maybe just a slightly above what we're looking to do. So hypothetically, let's just say 1 year you had a turnover of £1 million, and next year you wanted to increase that. You may want to, obviously, looking at your finances, etc. You'll know this, but I'm using this as an example. Your achievable goal might be to hit 1.1, right? But actually, could we just go a wee bit more? Maybe saying hit 1.5 is maybe a bit too far, might be demotivating. But what about if we make it 1.2? That could be a good example there. And then also think about the anti-goals associated with that. So we go and do something, and just so what would be the effects of us going and doing that as well. So if we did go and do something that was quite out there, would that have an effect on our people? Would that have an effect on our top line? And that's just other things to think about. So even though we're going to go for this bigger goal, could it actually affect other areas of the business as well? And then it's about who they're relevant to, so who's responsible for them. So again, it creates that accountability piece. And then we've got the timelines. So having a timeline in there, again, helping with accountability, which is what the goal set is all about. So framework that we have is just a spreadsheet. You can use multiple, there's various other softwares, etc. out there. But we just sort of have this a bit like a RAG system that we've got. So inside the spreadsheet, we've got our key goals. So this would be goal 1, and then we'd have a goal owner. So for example, goal 1 maybe is for it's just for company turnover, or for sales or something like that. That would maybe then sit with the CEO, or the CEO and the CFO. And then inside here, we then have the objectives. So this might then be product led or service led. So let's just say this was a consultancy. The turnover was to hit hypothetically 5 mil. Then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 different service offerings, and then these service offerings would have maybe a number associated with that. So what we're trying to do is we're saying this, and this is going to try and hit this overarching goal. And then what we then have got the actions associated with that. Now, what I would say with the actions is, depending on your size of organization, this framework might be a bit too much. You might just want to say, here's our goal, here's our objectives, and they're obviously measurable, so have a figure next to them. Then that's enough for us. How we go about doing that doesn't really matter. We just need to go and actually hit our objective, which will then hit our overarching goal. Or alternatively, for others that maybe have teams, you could start to put in what would be the key actions that need to be done in that team in order to hit this objective, which then would help hit that overarching goal. And then we've got the RAG system. So again, started, not started, or 100% done. So you've got a bit of measurement there as well. We've got our time frames, which are, if it's in quarters, you want to do it, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. And as I say, you'll probably find that if you have lots of actions and stuff in here, they tend to move about. Whilst if you mainly focus on the goals and the objectives, and these are top line, what those actions would be, it makes life a lot easier, and it also makes this document not be too heavy, and you're constantly changing it, which is not what we want to do all the time. And then what's key as well is who's responsible. So we've got our overarching goal owner. That doesn't say, so say that was me. That doesn't say that I have to be the one that has to do everything in these actions. It doesn't have to be that I do everything, in these objectives. It doesn't have to be everything that I do in the actions. It's just that I'm responsible for that. So that goal is to land with me. So I then need to make sure that the people that I'm working with are all aligning to that and hitting that as well. So this is a bit of a screenshot of our framework that we use. Again, as I said, some organizations use this fully. Some will take that to then use it to break down then maybe what their overarching goal is, and then the objectives that are getting towards that, and that's maybe enough for them. And then there's various other forms of tools and frameworks that are out there and models for business goal setting. But generally, when I'm working with organizations, I feel this is quite a good starter for 10 for you. And then really just for some questions really to probably ask yourself or to write down is, what key goals would your organization like to achieve this year? So as I say, that might be under product, service, people, culture, brand, marketing, revenue, sales, sustainability, operations, customers and clients. So really just think like, well, what are the goals? Just pull them, start writing them down. And putting them down there, and you can start to whittle down what you maybe think are the better ones. And then some other questions you might want to ask yourself are, well, how will you start achieving them? Who do you need to achieve them as well? So it's not all sitting with you. We need others involved in that. And even if you are whether it's a sole trader or whether you're a founder, single founder-led organization, it doesn't all have to be on you as well. There can be others that can help you do certain things. So think about that and strategically think who could help me so that it doesn't all sit on me as well. And that goes the same for inside teams or leaders of teams. Start using our teams more. So we've got that plan that they can start seeing how they can make a difference to their departments and in the organization as a whole. And then again, what is the time frame for them to be achieved? So always having that measurable side of it. So the measurable goal, the measurable objective, and then also having a measurable time frame. So we want this complete by the year, or we want this complete by April, for example. And then just some tips before I just come to the Q&A is, their goals and objectives really align with their vision, mission, and purpose. So, if what's the point in doing our vision, mission, and purpose, and then do goals and they don't really align to it. So making sure you've got that alignment throughout, and making sure that our values shine throughout as well. So let's not compromise that also. And sometimes when we do look at the profitability and the top line in organizations, we sometimes can forget about what our values are, and especially if shiny projects come in that have a nice financial figure to them. Again, we just need to stop and think, does that align to what we're looking to do? And again, that might happen for some people at different times. Established organizations can definitely do that a lot more. Those that are maybe starting out, it's maybe slightly different. But again, does that sit well with you or not? And try not compromise that. And then again, strategic documents, whether it's the vision, mission, purpose, whether it's your USP, whether it's your SWOT analysis, whether it's your goal setting, it's continuous process. So it's always needing reviews, it always needs changes. It's not set in stone. Your goals, your top goals for the year will be set. Try and keep them set if you can. You might make small changes to them, but ultimately, it's a process that needs continuous change, and especially the landscape we live and work in now, it's continuously changing. And there must be owners, so make sure you've got the owners for accountability, and also make sure that it's communicated. So if you've got teams, make sure that if we are sitting doing this, whether that's internally or externally, that we're communicating this throughout the whole organization. And that's not doing that just once off with a town hall. That's making sure we look at how we embed this in our organization, because if we embed it, we've got a higher chance of people actually doing what we're looking to do, and therefore if we've got a higher chance of people looking to do what we want to do, there's a potential to get a better opportunity for growth. And then I would just highly recommend having 3 or 4 key goals max, regardless of the size of the organization. We start to get more goals, just the communication piece, it just starts to drop. So I would choose 3 for probably it would be a great average, but if you need to go a wee bit further, then choosing 4. And also you've got those objectives and actions that are underneath that to align with them. That's everything. As I said, you can screenshot this. Will be recorded, so you can look back on this, and I think the decks will be able to view. But if anyone's got any questions before we finish, that would be great. I've quickly went through all of that. As I say, it's normally probably a a bit more of a workshop and exercises that would be in this, but at least that gives you a bit of a framework and a foundation to see what we're doing with various organisations at different levels across Scotland, and yeah, and hopefully you have some questions and answers that I can help you with. So yeah, if you do, just put that in the chat, and we'll pull them out, or alternatively raise your hand, and we'll take you off mute if you want to ask a question out loud.
Just having a wee look at the Q&A. So nothing coming in as yet, Jordan. But as you said, we've got the this, you know, the session recorded, and people can access that via the website. I'll just give it a minute or so just to see if anyone's got anything that occurs that they want to ask while we've got you captive. No. Okay. Well, that just leaves. Oh, sorry, Jordan. I'll let you do your final slide.
No, that's fine. Just again, that's if you want, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Always happy to answer any questions or anything around that. As I say, I'm quite passionate about setting goals and having that strategic direction. So if you need a bit of pointers, or again anything that I've shared today, happy to connect and chat offline. But yeah, I think Heather, you'll come on to that. The resources will be available at some point as well afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Thanks, Jordan, and thanks to the guys that attended the webinar. As we said, we'll send out copies of the presentation. There'll also be a feedback survey coming out, which we would really appreciate if you could complete. Your contribution really helps us support the development of future webinars. So that would be great if you just take a couple of minutes to complete that. And that just leaves me again to give final thanks and to sign off. Thank you, guys. Much appreciated.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.